Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week to celebrate LGBT Month, I'm going to be doing a review, a political drama movie titled Milk. Now, Milk runs for 2 hours and 8 minutes long. It is directed by Gus Van Sant. It is produced by Dan Jinks and Bruce Cohen. The script was written by Dustin Lance Black. The score was done by Danny Elfman. The cinematography by Harris Savidis. And the editing was done by Elliot Graham. And the stars of the movie are Sean Penn, Emile Hirsch, Josh Brolin, Diego Luna, Alison Pill, Victor Garber, Denis O'Hare, and James Franco. Okay, so when it comes to biopics, the thing that kind of like stands out for me is the feeling that I'm entering the lives of another person's life in hoping that I could get a bigger picture of that person and get a better understanding of their triumphs and failures, in hope that if I could ever meet a person similar to that character, I could feel, a bit more confident if ever should I approach someone of the similar traits as the characters that are aforementioned in certain movies. This one, too, in particular. The 2008 Oscar-winning film Milk, directed by Gus Van Sant, follows the remaining 8 eventful years of Harvey Milk's life as he makes the transition from a complete unknown to being one of the first openly gay political officials as part of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. As I mentioned in the title Milk, it isn't, entirely based on as on coming out gay during a time when homosexuality wasn't tolerated, but more about chasing your dreams to reach your fullest potential, regardless of what obstacles stand in your way. And in a way, Harvey Milk truly epitomizes that character, that chasing the dream, chasing the endeavors that he wishes to pursue. And that his homosexuality should not be a top priority. And he does that, and he succeeds quite well in that. Okay, back in 2008, Milk was given a plethora of accolades in the film industry, and most noteworthy being the sublime performance by Sean Penn as the titular character. With the makeup, the costumes, the molding of his character traits, Penn wasn't just playing Harvey Milk, he was Harvey Milk. I mean, he just wasn't like putting on a costume disguised as Harvey Milk and going silly about it. No, he took this role very well. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think he actually did win an Oscar for Best Performance in Best Male Actor in a Leading Role. And rightfully so. I mean, the guy just nailed the performance. Sometimes, it's not only just to act the part. In some cases, it's to actually look the part. And he not only acted, but he also looked the part. And he played it very, very effectively here. His character is portrayed as a calmly spoken, idealistic novice politician who overcame incredible odds, like standing up to the government giants while tackling the prejudices he faced in his personal life, including trying to open up a shop in a pre-gay community, but was not accepted because of his sexual orientation. But he actually overcame the odds. I mean, at first, when he first got into the political aspects in San Francisco. He started off as kind of like a lawyer or an advocate or a leader in his community, to tell the people in his community that, it's okay to be gay, and that nobody should live in fear or disparity, and that if you have any problems, come to me. There's no reason to be humble or proud. Well, yeah, you could be proud, but not in the sense like conceal your inner moods. Just whatever it is that you have to say it to me. You don't have to be afraid. And that's kind of like just the character that he was. I mean, at first, he started, well, prior to moving to San Francisco, he originally was living in New York City, working as a newspaper journalist. But he just felt like his life was unfulfilled living in New York City. So he and his partner decide that San Francisco is the place to be. And that's where his political career just took off from there. In keeping the balance between his work and home, it was his job to cater to the emotional needs of his partner, Scott Smith, played by James Franco, as he discovers the world has become more public and that he made it his decision to run for a political office as time and ambition was drawing near. Some say that maybe the guy went through a bit of a midlife crisis, in the sense that, he was stuck in a dead-end job in New York City and he just wanted to move forward. And he knew that, that once you hit 40, sometimes you think that your dreams are over. But he decided, once he reaches 40, that he wanted to make a name for himself. And that's exactly what his goal was mostly. This movie wasn't usually not coming out, as a spokesperson for gay rights, but as a spokesperson for moving forward in life. So there was a bit of that balance between the two. And I think it actually worked out very, very effectively. Okay, and like I said, the world had become more public, being to the fact that a lot of political debates were now frequently being seen on television, radio, newspaper. Not the internet yet. Remember, this movie, the setting of this movie is between the years 1970 to 78, so the media outlets were television, radio, and newspaper primarily. But still, like I said, as more channels, more variety of channels were starting to come into effect, there was more out there than like compared to the 50s or the 60s. So he decided that, it's time to break out of his shell, step out of the bubble, and come out into the open and not be afraid of it. After many years of Franco starring, aside from Sean Penn just molding himself from just immersing himself into the role of Harvey Milk, I gotta give a standout applause to the supporting cast. After many years in a stream of action films and comedy, it was great to see James Franco perform in a more dramatic film, and he pulled it off quite flawlessly. I know James Franco not too long ago was involved in some kind of hashtag Me Too movement that happened. Some kind of allegations came about. But at least, the good thing is that he kind of pulled through, and maybe his allegations was not as serious compared to the likes of other deviants like Harvey Weinstein, Louis C.K., Kevin Spacey, Bill Cosby, you name it. Those are like the really uber serious allegations. I think James Franco's might have been either some kind of misconstrued thing that was going on, or even maybe something that was not as deemed very serious, or as serious as some of these other allegations. I don't know. I'm just saying. I only read just what's between the lines. Nothing more, nothing less. So don't take my word on it. I'm just stating some facts. So aside from Sean Penn and James Franco's performances, the supporting characters are also quite effective in their acting, but it's their physical characteristics that also carry this movie forward. Yes, this is definitely more of a performance-based movie. It's mostly just character-driven, and this movie definitely more or less depends on the performers to play their respective roles, and to just delve into them. And they do it very, very well too. Josh Brolin, for example, he was quite effective as Harvey Milk's fellow colleague and rival, Dan White, and the chilling tale of his character is quite the thing that could really, truly make your skin crawl. Now, I know that the character of Dan White, his character could be made into a movie as well. When I think about it, he truly is his character is a lot more complex than what was kind of depicted in this movie. In this movie, he's clearly, obviously, I guess you could say, kind of a Republican rival to the more Democratic-leaning Harvey Milk. It's kind of like, I don't want to actually kind of vilify to make Dan White's character into a villain. Yes, he did kill 2 people in one day, Mayor Moscone and Harvey Milk, in their cold blood. He snuck past security and shot them. But, I want to tell you something. I know this might probably be hard on a lot of people, but I still don't want to actually just dismiss Dan White's character as a villain. Because, let's face it, this guy actually, believed in what he stood for. And that does not actually necessarily make him a villain. It just makes him a polar opposite. Rivalry is not synonymous with villainy. Rivalry is just one person thinking differently from the other person. That's what rivalry is. The guy, before he murdered Moscone and Harvey Milk, there was also a part where White was trying his best to get on the good side of Harvey Milk. He even once invited him to his son's christening. So I don't think he was really that evil. I think what got the best of him was, I believe he wanted to build some organization within the gay community that wasn't gay related, but Harvey Milk opposed the idea. The other political officials also opposed the idea. Dan White, of course, felt like he was betrayed of his friendship, betrayed of his trust, and eventually he tried to seek approval from the other officials, the other political officials, but they also were not siding with with Dan White. So then, Dan White decided to go out and kill Mayor Moscone and political supervisor Harvey Milk as an act of vengeance for feeling betrayed, for feeling let down. I mean, sure, okay, Dan White did get his comeuppance. I mean, he was sentenced to a lengthy prison sentence, but then was released in 1983. He tried to get his life back on track. He wanted to get back on his wife's good side, on his family, but his wife and his family do not want anything to do with him. He tried to go into other endeavors, including trying to take a teaching job, but they wouldn't offer him because of his reputation. So then in 1985, sadly, Dan White eventually decided that he had nothing else to live for, so he took his own life. Which, it's still a sad thing, but hey, I mean, I'm not trying to take sides here. I'm just, stating their side of the story, and this is just some of the research that I had discovered from prior to watching this movie. And I thought Josh Brolin really did capture the character of Dan White very effectively. Let's see. Emile Hirsch is definitely great as Harvey's associate, Cleve Jones. He was also effective, though his screen time was limited. Diego Luna, I believe, played Harvey Milk's second lover. Unfortunately, his role was kind of very, very limited. And I don't know. I didn't really dig Diego Luna's character because it was so one-dimensional. He kind of just played off a crazy guy who seemed to be somewhat off his rocker. I don't know if that actually kind of makes him LGBT. It just makes him into more or less a bona fide psychopath. Other effective performances, let's see. Well, Denis O'Hare is Mayor Moscone. He was the fair but firm mayor of San Francisco, who also felt the fate of Dan White's bullet. Victor Garber, yeah, that was Victor Garber. Denis O'Hare is Senator John Briggs, also very effective in his role too. Alison Pill, who was one of Harvey Milk's campaign associates. She also was very effective in her performance. So, it was really, really great acting overall from the cast. Even though Sean Penn carries the heavy cargo, it's good to see that the other actors also carry his or her weight very, very effectively. After the events that happened between 1970 to 1978, it has been maybe only recently that North America has truly found more acceptance to the LGBT community. And I gotta say, it has actually made great strides in helping these individuals be happy with the skin they own and not to live in fear or disparity. Because I think, as a member of the human race, we should all get along. How about more hugs and less slugs? More embracing and less killing? More help than hurt? And I think that if you go by those kind of rules and precedents and set these examples to yourself, maybe this world might be a better place. And they won't believe me, it could be a better place. And I always hope that the world that we live in will always be a better place than it was before. And no, you don't have to change your ideas in life and things like that, or what you want to believe in. But at least come to the agreement that everyone is different. Not just a group, but as an individual person. And I think if we look into it in that way, that we're all different, and that we all don't have to think inside the bubble, then I don't see why we should, I don't see why we should always have to infuse hostility towards somebody just because he or she is different. No need for that. Harvey Milk was a man who set out on a journey to overcome the odds, to help his people prosper, and to stand proud and open up, and to say that there are millions out there like him, and they're not afraid of who they are, and no one else should be. By coming out and admitting one's orientation was the pivotal step for one to crush the walls of homophobia, that everyone must coexist, and that it should be really nobody's business what your orientation is. Am I homosexual? Far from it. Okay, you want me to come clean? Here's the thing. I'm probably maybe the safest orientation. I'm actually asexual. That's right. Neither gay, straight, or bi. I'm asexual. I prefer to live my life with platonic relationships. I might be an example of men going their own way type. Just let me live my life without having the hassle of close, intimate relationships. Let me just sort of steer clear from all that. I don't need the heartbreak. I don't need the disparity. It could also stem from the fact that I also too have Asperger's syndrome, so sometimes communication is not always very easy for me too. That could also be a contributing factor to my asexual ways. But let me tell you something. But you know what? It doesn't bother me. I'm proud of the skin I own. And that's really what matters most. And I think that should be the same, should be said for other people. You don't have to be afraid to come out or to admit who you are. Because you want to know something? If a person said that to me, I would not like them any less. I would still like them for who they were before they come out. And I'm sure there's probably hotlines out there if anybody ever feels harassed or scorned, and that it's okay to report to people if you ever feel that your lives are in danger. Or to stand up against homophobia, just say to themselves, did I ever scorn you about your heterosexual ways? They usually stop after that. And if they don't, there's always people you can turn to. You don't have to be afraid. One of the things about this movie that I liked was that I liked how Gus Van Sant, he utilized archive footage to the film, which kind of adds an authenticity to the narrative, giving this film a dose of realism to the script. It's like taking, like video clips and just putting them in there. Sometimes it might be, some movies it could be a bit distracting, especially when they're in the middle of a dialogue and then they just segue it and just plaster it right into the middle of a dialogue. that is always very, very distracting. But here, it doesn't do it that much. It doesn't detract anything. In fact, I actually thought it just kept the script moving. It just kept the narrative going. And that's kind of like what I expect to see in a movie like this. Yes, it's going to be politically based. It's based on actual events. It's based on real facts. So to get archive footage from videos and just put it into the movie, it works out very, very well. In this way, I like that how, Van Sant is doing it as a contribution to the cause, as opposed to just arbitrarily pasting it into the scenes. The approach here has a more caring side to it, contrary to being preachy and just unmercifully rubbing it in our faces. Sure, this movie is about a guy who's coming out, but at least I'll say one thing. Yes, it is LGBT based, because Harvey Milk was openly gay. But at least, I'll say one thing. At least it doesn't just, rub it in our faces. It's not being overly political. It's not being, a message. It doesn't become preachy. It doesn't, virtue signal or anything like that. It's telling a story, and it's doing it very, very effectively. It's not saying that you should become LGBT. It's not saying that you need to change your ways, but more or less to just look at things differently and just take it as a grain of salt. And it doesn't, and I like that. Change could be good or bad depending on one's point of view. And the goal that Harvey Milk embarked on was that he wasn't asking for a lot, but just wanted the world to be a little more accepting and a lot less negatives. And his dreams was not just to make homosexual people's life a little more caring for the world around them, but to have a strong leader in the political spectrum and to stand up for them. Sure, the theme is on homosexual acceptance, but in the big world we live in, we face struggles in every aspect of life, making Milk more universally themed. So we're not looking at only just LGBT in a nutshell. We're also looking at movies based more off of trying to be a strong leader and trying to come out and be the best that you can. This has a little bit of coming of age to it. Now, although yes, it is a political drama. So to be honest, also with you, it's not real heavy-handed. I mean, there's of course tragedy, there's some suspense, and there's also, believe it or not, some humor. Come on, guys, laugh a little. We can all laugh a little bit here and there. Sometimes Harvey Milk cracks a few jokes, and maybe many people might say this movie was a little too light, but I didn't really actually find it to be overly. But then again, it doesn't have to be dark. This is not a dark and dismal story. This is about a guy who came from out of nowhere and made a life for himself and became an inspiration to not just the gay community, but for people who want to move forward in life. And that's exactly who Harvey Milk epitomized. And I got to give hats off to the director for his work. The script was really, really well executed. The performances were very, very good. And of all its accolades and all its awards, this movie really, really was very special. If I was to give it a score out of 10, I would definitely give this movie a 9. I can't quite give it a 10 because one of the weaknesses is that there are some characters who are still a bit underdeveloped, but it doesn't really detract too much, and that's just a small little minor nitpick. But overall, I thought this was a really good movie, and I would highly recommend it for you to see it. And you don't have to necessarily be LGBT either. So I guess this kind of ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember, there are 3 rules that you must follow, and that is be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.